Salah is one of the 5 pillars of the faith of Islam and an obligatory religious duty for every Muslim. It is a physical, mental, and spiritual act of worship that is observed 5 times every day at prescribed times. In this ritual, the worshipper starts standing, bows prostrates, and concludes while sitting on the ground. During each posture, the worshipper recites or reads certain verses, phrases and prayers. The word Salah is commonly translated to prayer, but this definition might be confusing. Muslims use the words dua or supplication when referring to the common definition of prayers, which is reverent petitions made to God. Salah is preceded by ritual ablution. Salah consists of the repetition of a unit called a rak'ah, consisting of prescribed actions and words. The number of obligatory rak'ah varies from 2 to 4 according to the time of day or other circumstances. Prayer is obligatory for all Muslims except those who are prepubescent, menstruating, or experiencing bleeding in the 40 days after childbirth. Every movement in the Salah is accompanied by the takbir except the standing between the ruku and sujud, and the ending, which has a derivation of the Muslim greeting Assalamu alaikum. Terminology. Salah is an Arabic word whose basic meaning is bowing, homage, worship, prayer. In its English usage, the reference of the word is almost always confined to the Muslim formal, obligatory worship described in this article. Translating Salah as prayer is not usually considered precise enough, as prayer can indicate several different ways of relating to God. Personal prayer or supplication is called dua in Islamic usage. Muslims themselves use several terms to refer to Salah depending on their language or culture. In many parts of the world, including many non-Arab countries such as Indonesia, the Arabic term salat or salah is used. The other major term is the Persian word namaz, used by speakers of the Indo-Iranian languages, as well as Turkish, Russian, Chinese, Bosnian and Albanian. In North Caucasian languages, the term is lamaz in Chechen, chak in Lak and kak in Avar. Purpose and importance. The chief purpose of Salah is to act as a person's communication with and remembrance of God. By reciting the first surah of the Quran, as required in daily worship, the worshipper can stand before God, thank and praise Him, and ask for guidance along the straight path. Under the Hanbali school of thought, a person who doesn't pray 5 times a day is an unbeliever. The other 3 Sunni schools of thought say that the person who doesn't pray 5 times a day is an unholy sinner. Those who prescribe to the Hanbali view cite a hadith from Sahih Muslim that states that prayer is a dividing line between a believer and a non-believer. In addition, daily worship reminds Muslims to give thanks for God's blessings and that submission to God takes precedence over all other concerns, thereby revolving their life around God and submitting to His will. Worship also serves as a formal method of dhikr or remembering Allah. Muslims believe that all prophets of Allah offered daily prayers and their humble submission to oneness of Allah. Muslims also believe that the main duty of the prophets of Allah is to teach mankind to humbly submit themselves to oneness of Allah, the God. In Quran, it is written that 4 believers are those who, when Allah is mentioned, feel a tremor in their hearts, and when they hear His signs rehearsed, find their faith strengthened, and put their trust in their Lord. To those whose hearts, when God is mentioned, are filled with fear, who show patient perseverance over their afflictions, keep up regular prayer, and spend out of what we have bestowed upon them. Salah is also cited as a means of restraining a believer from social wrongs and moral deviancy. According to a hadith in the collection Sahih Bukhari, Muhammad considered Salah the best deed. The importance of the Salah was further demonstrated by Muhammad, who on his deathbed and in the pangs of death would announce, "The Salah, I remind you of the Salah, and to look after the women." His companions describe the scene saying, "The majority of the Messenger of Allah's advice, when death came to him, was the Salah, and to look after the women, to the extent that his chest would be repeating these words, and his tongue ceased to express them." Conditions. At the bottom of the central nave of the prayer hall there is a niche indicating the Qibla. This compulsory act of worship is obligatory for those who meet these conditions. A Muslim, are of sound mind, have reached the age of puberty. Elements that make Salah valid: confidence of the time of worship, facing the Qibla with the chest facing the direction of the Kaaba. The ill and the old are allowed leniency with posture, covering the aura, clean clothes, body, place of prostration, ritual purity. Praying in front of a sutra is recommended. The place of worship should be clean. In a few cases where blood is leaving the body, Salah is forbidden until her later time. Women are not allowed to pray during their menses and for a period after childbirth. Preparation, cleanliness and dress. Islam advises that Salah be performed in a ritually clean environment. When worshipping, the clothes that are worn and the place of prayer must be clean. Both men and women are required to cover their bodies in reasonably loose-fitting garments. The well-known adage or hadith by al-Nawawi that purity is half the faith illustrates how Islam has incorporated and modified existing rules of purity in its religious system. Ritual ablution. Before conducting Salah, a Muslim has to perform a ritual ablution. The minor ablution is performed using water or sand when water is unavailable or not advisable to use for reasons such as illness. Wudu is performed by Muslims according to the instructions of God given in the Quran. O you who believe, when you rise up to prayer, wash your faces and your hands as far as the elbows, and wipe your heads and your feet to the ankles, and if you are under an obligation to perform a total ablution, then wash in. If you are sick or on a journey, or one of you come from the privy, or you have touched the women, and you cannot find water, betake yourselves to pure earth and wipe your faces and your hands therewith. Allah does not desire to put on you any difficulty, but He wishes to purify you and that He may complete His favor on you, so that you may be grateful. Quran, Surah 5, Ayat 6. More specifically, wudu is performed by Muslims by washing the hands, mouth, nose, arms, face, hair, ears, and feet 3 times each in that order. Call to prayer, adhan, is the Islamic call to prayer, recited by the one known as the muezzin for the 5 obligatory prayers, traditionally from a tower called the minaret. A second call immediately before praying, known as the iqama, is for the assembled Muslims in the prayer area to line up for the beginning of the prayers. Intention. The person should be conscious and aware of the particular salah that is being offered, whether it is obligatory, if it is a mis-worship, performed individually or among the congregation, a shortened traveler's worship, etc. The explicit verbalization of this intention is not required. The person should think his worship to be the last worship so that he may perform the best he can. How to conduct Salah. Each Salah is made up of repeating units or cycles called rakats. The number of rakats for the 5 daily worship can be found below. People who find it physically difficult can perform Salah in a way suitable for them. A basic rakat is made up of these parts. Standing. If this is the first rakat, the prayer is commenced by the saying of the takbir, which is, the hands are raised level with shoulders or level with top of their ears, with fingers apart and not spaced out or together. This is done before, with or after the takbir. Both arms are placed over the chest, with the right arm over the left. If this is the first rakat, a supplication praising God is said, such as Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik wa tabarak ismuk wa taalaa jaduk wa laa ilaha gairuk. The recitation of the Quran begins by asking refuge with God from the accursed devil by reciting which is transliterated into Latin script as Akyadu billahi minash shaitani ar-rajim and followed by Bi-Izmillahi ar-Rahmani ar-Rahim. Surah Al-Fatiha is recited as follows. Alhamdulillahi, Rabbi al-Kalamana ar-Rahmani ar-Rahimi Maliki Yawmi Azdini Iyaka Nakbadu Iyaka Nastasinu Idina as-Sirata al-Mustaqima Sirata al-Ladina, Ankamta Kalahim Garira al-Magdubi Kalahim Wala Adalina. For the first or second rakat only, the recitation of Al-Fatiha is followed with a recitation from any other section from the Quran of choice. The takbir is said again and the hands are raised as previously described, and the next position, bowing or ruku, begins. Bowing, the palms are placed on the knees. Ideally, fingers are spaced out and the back is erected at an angle at which poured water may not fall from it. Some of many types of remembrances of God are recited for this situation, such as 3 times or more. Second, standing i'tidal is the standing again after ruku. The back is straightened and the hands are raised as in takbir as mentioned before, but saying. Some of many praises to God are said for this situation, such as the takbir is said and the hands can be raised as mentioned before, as the next position, prostration, begins with hands reaching the ground before knees. Prostration, as much of the ground must be felt by the nose as the forehead. The elbows are raised and the palms are on level with either the shoulders or the ears, with fingers together. Some of many types of remembrances of God are recited for this situation, such as 3 times or more. The takbir is said again and the hands can be raised as mentioned before, while the next position, kneeling, begins. Sitting, while sitting, either the left foot is placed along the ground with the right foot upright or both feet are kept upright. Some of many types of remembrances are recited for this situation, such as Rab, I fear Li, Rab, I fear Li. The takbir is said again and the hands can be raised as mentioned before as the second prostration begins. Second prostrations are done exactly as the first time. The head is raised and the takbir is said again and the hands can be raised as mentioned before. For every second and last rakat only you would go to the sitting position again. Otherwise, the standing position begins again for the start of a new rakat. Second, sitting. If this is the second raka'ah, sitting is done as before. If this is not part of the second raka'ah, then the left thigh is leaned against the ground and both feet are protruding from the right side with the right foot either upright or along the ground. The left palm leans on the left knee. The right index finger is pointed towards the Qibla. The tashahhud is recited. At-tahiyyatu lillahi wa as-salawatu wa t-tayyibatu. As-salamu alayka ayyuhan nabiyyu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As-salamu alayna wa ila ibadillahi salihin. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Greetings on Muhammad are recited. Allahumma salli. ila Muhammadin wa ila Ali Muhammadin kama salaita ila Ibrahim wa ila Ali Ibrahim innaka hamid majid. Allahumma barik ila Muhammadin wa ila Ali Muhammadin kama barakta ila Ibrahim wa ila Ali Ibrahim innaka hamid majid. If this is not the last raka'ah, a new raka'ah begins by standing up again with the takbir and the hands can be raised as mentioned before. If this is the last raka'ah, the greetings of taslim are said to the right, such as, and then similarly to the left. Differences in practice. The Islamic worship practiced by one Muslim may differ from another's in minor details, which can affect the precise actions and words involved. Differences arise because of different interpretations of the Islamic legal sources by the different schools of law in Sunni Islam, and by different legal traditions within Shi'ism. In the case of ritual worship, these differences are generally minor, and should rarely cause dispute. Muslims believe that Muhammad practiced, taught, and disseminated the worship ritual in the whole community of Muslims and made it part of their life. The practice has, therefore, been concurrently and perpetually practiced by the community in each of the generations. The authority for the basic forms of the Salah is neither the Hadiths nor the Quran, but rather the consensus of Muslims. Differences also occur due to optional articles of prayer procedure, for example, which verses of the Quran to recite. Shia Muslims, after the end of the prayer, raise their hands 3 times, reciting Allahu Akbar, and Sunnis just look at the left and right shoulder saying salams. Also, Shias in the second rakat often read Qanut, which for Sunnis is often done after Salah. In each of the positions, the Muslim usually needs to consider these, which may vary between schools and gender: position of legs and feet, position of hands, including fingers, place where eyes should focus, the minimum amount of adhkar, recitation, depending upon whether the worshipper is imam or following the imam or praying alone, loudness of recitation, audible, or moving of lips, or just listening, steps that are compulsory or necessary in the 5 daily prayers. Note: Shias do not recite Surah Ikhlas in one breath.